तब कटि जाउछि Hello students, welcome to Learning Smart. Today we will cover some of these international treaties which are very important for the civil service examinations. So let's start with the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Okay. So CTBT, or which is called as CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Fine. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is a multilateral treaty that ban all nuclear tests for both civilian and military purposes in all environment. What is this treaty? Is a multilateral treaty. So what subjects? It's ban on nuclear test. So nuclear test for both civilian and military purposes. So any sort of nuclear test, whether for the civilian purpose or for the military purpose, is banned under this treaty. Okay, so popularly known as CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. This nuclear concept, this remain hidden. CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Fine. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on 10 September 1996. Okay, it is an international treaty adopted at the UNO. Okay, UNO General Assembly, which is the primary representative body of the global organization called the United Nations. The General Assembly is represented by all the 193 members. Each and every member of the United Nations is represented in the General Assembly. Fine. So all 193 members, they are represented in the General Assembly. Fine. And it was adopted by the General Assembly on 10 September 1996, but has not entered into force as 8 specific nations have not ratified the treaty. Okay, so it needs ratification because any international treaty for implementation internationally needs ratification by their respective parliament. But as it was not ratified by the 8 specific nations, so it has not yet been implemented or come into force. The movement for international control, fine, of nuclear weapons began in 1945 with a call from Canada and the United Kingdom for a conference on the subject. Fine. In 1946, Bernard Baruch, the emissary of President Truman of USA President Truman, okay, proposed the Baruch Plan before the United Nations Atomic Energy Commission, which called for an international system of controls on the production of atomic energy. This Baruch Plan, advanced by the US President Truman's emissary Bernard Baruch in 1946. Okay, it aims to control on the production of atomic energy. Fine. The plan, which could serve as the basis for United Nations nuclear policy in 1950, was rejected by the Soviet Union as the US flowed to cement its nuclear dominance. Why? Because during the World War II period, USA use nuclear weapon or atom bomb on Japan and prove its dominance. Okay, using this what during the Second World War, okay, World War II, using atomic weapon, USA established its domination. Fine. So as US established domination, so the Baruch plan was suspected by contemporary Soviet Union as a plan by USA that this nuclear weapon development should not be made common or permitted to other countries, because so if more and more country they join the nuclear race, then the US domination in the domain will be reduced. So only to maintain its hegemony, its importance in the international scenario, the Baruch plan was advanced by USA emissary Bernard Baruch, okay, under President Truman. So it was a valid ground for suspicion of Soviet Union. Fine. Soviet Union became suspicious. Fine. That is why it was not accepted internationally. Between the Trinity nuclear test on 1945 and signing of the partial test ban treaty, before the CTBT, there is a partial test ban treaty on August 1963. So 499 nuclear tests were conducted. Much of the impetus for the PTBT, the precursor of the CTBT, was raising public concern surrounding the size and resulting nuclear fallout from the underwater and atmospheric nuclear test, particularly the test of powerful thermonuclear hydrogen bomb. Because since 1945 till 1963, so within a span of 18 years, so 499 tests were conducted, and many of the tests are thermonuclear tests. And it apart from the nuclear fallout, it has created concern in the mind of the public that there has developed a very keen competition for nuclear weapon around the world, and more countries are right now vigorously pursuing for development of nuclear weapons, which is not good for the human civilization. Fine. That manifests how in the post Second World War period, so more and more countries join the race for becoming nuclear weapon power countries. Fine. The Castle Bravo test of 1954 in particular attracted significant attention as the detonation resulted in a fallout, means nuclear fallout, that spread over inhabited areas and sickened a group of Japanese fishermen. Between 1945 and 1963, the USA conducted 215 tests, Soviet Union conducted 219 tests, UK conducted 21 tests, and France conducted 3. So even after using nuclear weapons in the Second World War, USA remained the top nuclear test conducting country in the post Second World War period by conducting 215 atmospheric tests of nuclear weapons, whereas the then Soviet Union, the competitor of USA, it slightly conducted more, that is 219. When America conducted 215 tests competing with USA, Soviet Union conducted 219 tests, and other countries like UK and France have also joined the race. Although the number of tests conducted by them are numerically less, yet they conducted it. So these all prove that there is a race started for detonating nuclear weapons among the major powers of the period, and that led to this particular treaty being discussed and signed. Fine. In 1954, following the Castle Bravo test, Prime Minister Nehru of India issued the first appeal for a standstill agreement. For what? Nehru appealed for a standstill as it is, standstill agreement on testing, which was soon echoed by the British Labour Party. Negotiations on a comprehensive test ban primarily involving USA, UK, Soviet Union began in 1955. Following a proposal by the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev of primary concern throughout the negotiations, which could stretch with some interruption to July 1963, was the system of verifying compliance with the test ban and detecting illicit tests. The whole intention of this was verifying the system of compliance of the test ban and finding the illicit test, those countries who are authorized or not authorized, whether they are conducting test or not, verifying illicit test, was the whole intention of this particular initiative taken by the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev. Fine. So next what comes? The PTBT of 1963 was joined by 123 countries. So PTBT stands for Partial Test Ban Treaty. What it is? Partial Test Ban Treaty. Partial Test Ban Treaty. Okay, and it was joined by 123 countries. Following the original three parties, banned detonation of military and civilian purpose underwater, in the atmosphere and in the outer space. So, underwater test is banned, atmospheric test is banned, and outer space testing is banned. So, this PTBT prohibited testing of nuclear weapon underwater, in the atmosphere and outer space. The PTBT has mixed results. On the one hand, enactment of the treaty was followed by a substantial drop in the atmospheric concentration of radioactive particles. On the other hand, nuclear proliferation was not halted entirely, though it may have slowed, and nuclear testing continued at a rapid clip. Compared to the 499 tests from 1945 to the signing of PTBT, 436 tests were conducted over the 10 years following the PTBT. So, although PTBT was signed, but it has not completely reduced the number of tests. As compared to 499 tests, so prior to the PTBT, in the next 10 years, 436 tests were conducted. That means within a 10-year period, the reduction was only 63 less. Fine. It's not a very big number. So, but somehow slow down, because in the next 10 years, this might have been doubled. From 499, it might have crossed 1000. But it has been kept limited within the 3 digit of 436 tests. Fine. Furthermore, USA and Soviet Union underground testing continued venting radioactive gas into the atmosphere. Additionally, though underground testing was generally safer than above ground testing, underground tests continued to risk the leaking of radioactive nuclides, including plutonium, into the ground. From 1964 through 1996, the year of the CTBT adoption, an estimated 1,377 underground nuclear tests were conducted. You see how human mind acted. When atmospheric test was banned, so they continue underground test, and from 1964 till 1996. 1964. The next 32 years. So 1377 underground tests were conducted. Fine. That means, so as the atmospheric test, underwater test, outer space testing was banned, but it has not completely banned nuclear testing. Rather, nuclear testing find the new medium of underground test. Fine. The final non-underground or underwater test was conducted by China in 1980. Fine. China joined the race along with USA, Russia, UK and France. China joined the race in 1980. The PTBT has been seen as a step towards Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty of 1968, which directly reference the PTBT. Under NPT, the non-nuclear weapon states were prohibited from possessing, manufacturing and acquiring nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. All signatories, including nuclear weapon states, were committed to the goal of total nuclear disarmament. However, India, Pakistan, Israel have declined to sign the NPT on the ground of such a treaty is fundamentally discriminatory because NPT divides the world into nuclear hubs and nuclear have-nots. While the nuclear hubs are permitted vertical proliferation, so N hubs and M have-nots. N hubs are allowed for vertical proliferation, but have-nots were prohibited from any. Fine. So no one can join beyond this 5. This 5 N power N5. Okay. No addition is allowed. So not allowed. Okay. This is discriminatory. The nuclear weapon country continue to add to the nuclear weapon in a vertical manner, but the non-nuclear weapon states are prohibited from testing nuclear weapons. This is the discriminatory clause in the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. Fine. In 1974, a step towards a comprehensive test ban was made with the Threshold Test Ban Treaty. After PTBT comes the TTBT, Threshold Test Ban Treaty, ratified by the US and Soviet Union, which ban underground test with yield above 150 kilotons. Okay, first is PTBT. Then comes TTBT. Okay, Threshold Test Ban Treaty, and the Threshold Test Ban Treaty prohibited underground testing which are allowed in PTBT beyond the yield above 150 kilotons. In April 1976, the two states reached agreement on Peaceful Nuclear Explosion Treaty (PNET). Who reached this agreement? USA and USSR signed the PNET. Okay, Peaceful Nuclear Explosion Treaty, which concerns nuclear detonations outside the weapon sites discussed in the TTBT. As in the TTBT, the US and Soviet Union agreed to bar peaceful nuclear explosions at those other locations with yield above 150 kilotons, as well as group explosions with total yield over 1500 kilotons. To verify compliance, the PNET requires that states rely on national technical means of verification, share information on explosion, and grant on-site access to counterparties. The TTBT and the PNET enter into force on 11th December 1990. These two treaty, what? TTBT, Threshold Test Ban Treaty, and Peaceful Nuclear Explosion Treaty. They enter into force on 11th December 1990, and they put restrictions. One put restrictions on testing of above 150 kilotons. Okay. And the PNET was a for Peaceful Nuclear Explosion Treaty signed between USA and USSR. Then USSR. Fine. So these are all the PTBT, TTBT, PNET. All these are the predecessors of the CTBT. When CTBT was signed, all these treaties lost their relevance. In 1977, USA, UK and Soviet Union returned to negotiations over a test ban. These three nuclear powers made notable progress in the late 1970s, agreeing to terms on ban on all testing, including a temporary prohibition on partial nuclear explosion, but continued disagreement about the compliance mechanism led to an end to negotiations ahead of Ronald Reagan's inauguration as president in 1981. In 1985, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev announced a unilateral testing moratorium, and in December 1986, Reagan reaffirmed US commitment to pursue the long-term goal of a comprehensive test ban. In November 1987, negotiations on a test ban restarted, followed by a joint US-Soviet program to reach underground test detection in December 1987. Fine. This is the predecessors or the process of negotiation before the CTBT was signed. Negotiation. Given the political situation prevailing in the subsequent decade, little progress was made in nuclear disarmament until the end of the Cold War in 1991. As you all know, Cold War was the war between USA and USSR. It is a phase of intense armament built up without recourse to direct attack. So both the sides continue accumulating nuclear weapons, conventional weapons, high definition weapons. That phase is called Cold War. And the Cold War ended in 1991 with the disintegration of USSR. Okay. Parties to the PTBT held an amendment conference that year to discuss a proposal to convert the treaty into an instrument banning all nuclear weapon tests. With strong support from the UN General Assembly, negotiations for a comprehensive test ban treaty began in 1993. Then the adoption. Extensive efforts were made over the next 3 years to draft the treaty text and into 2 annexures. However, the Conference on Disarmament, in which negotiations were being held, did not succeed in reaching consensus on adoption of that text. On 10 September 1996, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty was adopted by a large majority, exceeding 2/3 of the General Assembly members. Fine. And so obligations of the under the treaty, what are the obligations to the countries? Okay. So as per the obligation, Article 1, each state party undertakes not to carry out any nuclear weapon test explosion. What obligation? Every state party to the treaty undertakes not to carry out any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion, and to prohibit and prevent any such nuclear explosion by any place under its jurisdiction and control. This is the obligation number 1 as per the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Fine. Then each state party undertakes furthermore to refrain from causing, encouraging or in any way participating in the carrying out of any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion. 2 things. So they will not do it, they will not encourage anyone also. Not only do it on their own, they will also not encourage anyone. in doing such. Fine. Okay. These are two provisions of the CTBT. Then in the course of discussion, we discuss the NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is the most important treaty among the in the nuclear domain. Let's know the provisions of this Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Fine. The Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, commonly known as the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT, is an international treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapon technology. But its MSAT to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons or weapon technology, to promote cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and to further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. Fine. Three major objectives of the treaty. First is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapon technology. Not only weapons, but weapon technology. Second, to promote cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. So, weapon technology is prohibited, but peaceful use is permitted. And to further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general complete disarmament. Two things. First is the third option under the treaty is to further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament. Okay, as well as general and complete disarmament. So, nuclear disarmament is the disarmament of nuclear weapons, and complete disarmament is about the other weapons again, not only nuclear weapons but also other weapons. Between 1965 and 1968, the treaty was negotiated by the 18-nation Committee on Disarmament under the United Nations sponsor organization based in Geneva, Switzerland. What is the Committee on Disarmament? Was formed by the United Nations sponsor organization. Fine. Headquartered to Geneva in Switzerland. Open for signature in 1968, the treaty entered into force in 1970. Treaty agreed, drafted, signed in 1968. Signed in 1968, entered into force in 1970. As required by the text, after 25 years, the NPT party met in May 1995 because came into force in 1970. So condition after plus 25 years. So became 1995. Has agreed to extend the treaty indefinitely. The contracting party, they again meet after 25 years as per the original draft, and there in the meeting held for the review conference in 1995, the parties agreed to extend it for indefinite period, realizing the importance of this treaty. So they agreed to extend it for indefinite period for times to come. Fine. That is the present treaty in force and after 25 years as per the agreement. Okay. It was renewed for indefinite period. Fine. Then comes more countries are parties to the NPT than any other arms limitation and disarmament agreement. A statement to this treaty significance. It is a testament to the treaty significance because so many countries were the member of this international treaty, which is 191 states. United Nations has a membership of 193, but the NPT has a strength of 191 countries, as a member. Though North Korea, which acceded in 1985 but never came into compliance, announced its withdrawal by NPT in 2003 following detonation of nuclear device in violation of the core obligations. North Korea was out of the treaty. And who else were not in this treaty? 4 UN member states have never accepted NPT, 3 of which possess or thought to possess nuclear weapons, including India, Israel and Pakistan. These 3 countries, although they possess nuclear weapons, but they have not signed it. In addition, South Sudan, which was created in 2011, has not joined it. So North Korea has not joined it but withdraw. Then India, Israel and Pakistan, they have nuclear weapons, almost it is presumed they have tested it, although India and Pakistan tested, Israel has not tested, but everyone presumes that Israel has sophisticated nuclear weapons with American support. So these 3 have not accepted the treaty, and South Sudan, which is the new member country of United Nations, has not joined the treaty. The treaty defines nuclear weapon states as those that have built and tested a nuclear explosive device before 1st January 1967. Those are the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France and China. Who are the country? United States, Russia, UK, France and China. Okay, so these are called the N5. These 5 countries are popularly called as the N5 as per the NPT. 4 other states are known to believe to possess nuclear weapons. India, Pakistan, North Korea have openly tested and declared that they possess nuclear weapons, while Israel is deliberately ambiguous regarding its nuclear weapon status. So, out of the other country, so 3, India, Pakistan and North Korea, they have tested nuclear weapon openly. And Israel, it is believed that although Israel is very ambiguous about its nuclear weapon status, but everyone know that Israel has a much advanced nuclear weapon repository with itself, with the support of USA. Fine. So deliberately ambiguous. Who? Israel. So it is right now presumed that there are legitimately 5 nuclear weapon countries, 5 N5, and another, these are the de jure, and there are some de facto. India, Pakistan, Israel, North Korea. Among these, so India, Pakistan, North Korea tested, and Israel even very skeptical, very ambiguous about its nuclear weapon position. But still everyone knows that Israel has sophisticated nuclear weapon with the support of America. Fine. NPT is often seen to be based on a central bargain. NPT or non-nuclear weapon states agree never to acquire nuclear weapons, and the NPT non-nuclear weapon states in exchange agree to share the benefit of peaceful nuclear technology and to pursue nuclear disarmament aimed at the ultimate elimination of their nuclear arsenals. What is that? So, nuclear weapon states agree never to acquire nuclear weapons, non-nuclear weapon states, and the NPT nuclear weapon states in exchange agree to share the benefit of peaceful nuclear technology and to pursue nuclear disarmament aimed at the ultimate elimination of their nuclear arsenal. So condition was on most condition was on the non-nuclear weapon country. They will not try to acquire nuclear weapon. It is a condition on the non-nuclear weapon states. In return, as a bargaining measure, the nuclear weapon country were supposed to provide all benefits of peaceful use of nuclear weapon and nuclear technology, not weapon technology, peaceful nuclear technology to the non-nuclear weapon states, because they are strictly prohibited from developing nuclear weapon technology. So the nuclear hubs, it was their commitment to provide all civilian nuclear technology to the non-nuclear weapon country. The treaty is reviewed every 5 years in meetings called review conferences. Even though the treaty was originally conceived with a limited duration of 25 years, the signatory parties decided by consensus to unconditionally extend the treaty indefinitely during the review conference held in New York in 1995 after 25 years. The 25th years review conference agreed to extend the treaty for an indefinite period because its oath was realized by the humanity, by the countries at large, and at the 25th review conference on the 25th year, so they all agreed to extend it for unlimited period. Fine. And the 5th review conference was held at New York in the 25th years of the completion of the treaty coming into force. Fine. At the time of NPT was proposed, there are predictions that 25 to 30 nuclear weapon states within 20 years. So when the NPT was discussed, it was presumed that 25 to 30 countries will join the nuclear weapon race. Instead, over 40 years later, only 5 states are not party to the NPT, and they include the only 4 additional states believed to possess nuclear weapons. Several additional measures have been adopted to strengthen NPT and the broader nuclear non-proliferation regime and make it difficult for states to acquire the capability to produce nuclear weapons, including the export controls of the nuclear supplier group and the enhanced verification measures of the International Atomic Energy Agency additional protocol. Okay, so they are supposed to comply to this. Fine. The treaty structure, the NPT consists of a preamble and 11 articles. Okay. Although the concept of pillars is not expressed anywhere in the NPT, the treaty is nevertheless sometimes interpreted as a 3-pillar system with an implicit balance among them. Fine. So, what are the provisions? Non-proliferation, disarmament, and the right to peacefully use nuclear technology. 3 things are highlighted in this treaty. One is non-proliferation, second is disarmament, third is right to peaceful use nuclear technology. Fine. First pillar is non-proliferation. Under Article 1 of the treaty, NPT, nuclear weapon states pledge not to transfer nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive device to any recipient or in any way assist, encourage or induce any non-nuclear weapon states in manufacture or acquisition of nuclear weapons. That is Article number 1 regarding non-proliferation or spread of nuclear weapon and weapon technology. But under Article 1 provides for, it provides that nuclear weapon states, these 5 for the N5, okay, pledge not to transfer nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive device to any recipient or in any way assist, encourage or induce any non-nuclear weapon states in the manufacture or acquisition of a nuclear weapon. Fine. This is the first pillar of the NPT. Fine. Then next one, under Article 2 of NPT, non-nuclear weapon state pledge not to acquire or exercise control over nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices and not to seek or receive assistance in the manufacture of such devices. Under Article 2 of NPT, non-nuclear weapon states pledge not to acquire or exercise control over nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices and not to seek or receive assistance in the manufacture of such devices. Under Article 3 of the treaty, non-nuclear weapon states pledge not to accept IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, safeguards to verify that their nuclear activity serve only peaceful purpose. That is Article 3 of the NPT. This is regarding the non-nuclear weapon states. The non-nuclear weapon states, so they pledge to accept the International Atomic Energy Agency, the nuclear watchdog of the world, safeguards to verify that their nuclear activities serve only peaceful purposes. Fine. 5 states are recognized by NPT as nuclear weapon states, such as China, France, Soviet Union, okay, then United Kingdom and United States of America. Fine. And so after the disintegration of USSR, it is Russia right now, Russian Federation, which is the recognized nuclear weapon country of the world as per the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. Fine. NPT, N5, USA, Russia, UK, France and China. Fine. These 5 nuclear weapon states agreed not to transfer nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive device, and not in any way to assist, encourage or induce a non-nuclear weapon states to acquire nuclear weapons. Okay, non-nuclear weapon state party to the NPT agree not to receive, manufacture or acquire nuclear weapon, or to seek or receive any assistance in the manufacture of the nuclear weapons. Article 2, non-nuclear weapon states parties also agree to accept safeguards by the International Atomic Energy Agency to verify that they are not diverting nuclear energy from peaceful uses to nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices, that is Article 3. Okay, so these have provisions for all 3. First, each on the nuclear weapon states. So they have the obligation not to pass on the technology or weapons. The second commitment is on the non-nuclear weapon states. So it is their commitment not to try for acquiring nuclear weapon technology or nuclear weapon. And the third one is to try for disarmament in the long term. So this is all about. And the second pillar, disarmament, under Article 6 of the NPT, all parties undertake to pursue good faith negotiations on effective measures relating to cessation of nuclear arms race, to nuclear disarmament and to general and complete disarmament. Fine. Article 6 of the NPT represents the only binding commitment in a multilateral treaty to the goal of disarmament by the nuclear weapon states. The NPT's preamble contained language affirming the desire of treaty signatories to each international tension and strengthen international trust so as to create someday the conditions for a halt to production of nuclear weapons, and a treaty on general and complete disarmament that liquidates in particular nuclear weapons and their delivery vehicles from national arsenal. Third pillar, peaceful use of nuclear energy. NPT Article 4 acknowledges the right of all parties to develop nuclear energy for peaceful purposes and to benefit from international cooperation in this area. In conformity with their non-proliferation obligations, Article 4 also encourages such cooperation. This so-called third pillar provides for the transfer of nuclear technology and materials to NPT parties for peaceful purposes in the development of civilian nuclear energy program in these countries, subject to IAES safeguards to demonstrate that their nuclear program are not being used for the development of nuclear weapons. So this is what third pillars. So this is for peaceful use of nuclear energy. So NPT never prohibits the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Peaceful use is permitted, and here the countries, the nuclear weapon country even can help the non-nuclear weapon states to get the benefit of the civilian nuclear technology. Fine. And because peaceful nuclear technology can serve the energy need of many countries, so they agreed to support the countries in harnessing civilian nuclear technology. Fine. That is what is one of the most important features. The commercially popular light water reactor nuclear stations uses enriched uranium fuel. It follows that state must be able to either to enrich uranium or purchase it on an international market. So either because the reactors need uranium and they can enrich the uranium, or they can purchase enriched uranium from the market. Countries that have become party to the NPT and non-nuclear weapon states have a strong record of not building nuclear weapons, although some tried and one eventually left the NPT and acquired nuclear weapons, that is North Korea. Fine. Iraq was found by the IAEA to have violated its safeguard obligations and subject to punitive sanction by the UN Security Council. North Korea never came into compliance with the NPT safeguards agreement and was cited repeatedly for those violations and later withdrew from the NPT and tested multiple nuclear devices. Iran was found in non-compliance with the NPT safeguards obligations in an unusual non-consensus decision because it failed in a number of instances over an extended period of time to report respect of its enriched program. So these countries were neighbor. And what is the criticism of this treaty? The critics argue that NPT cannot stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons because more and more countries join, or the motivation to acquire them. They express disappointment with the limited progress on nuclear disarmament, where the 5 authorized nuclear weapon states still have 13,400 warheads in their combined stockpile. Fine. See the number. So just 2 bombs cause havoc in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But at present, there are 13,400 nuclear arsenals stockpiled by different countries. Over the years, the NPT has come to be seen by many third world states as a conspiracy of the nuclear hubs to keep the nuclear have-nots in their place. This argument has roots in Article 6 of the treaty, which obligates the nuclear weapon states to liquidate their nuclear stockpile and pursue complete disarmament, which they have never complied. This is not happening at all. Means the nuclear weapon states, as per the treaty, are supposed to liquidate their nuclear weapon and achieve complete disarmament, but this has not been successful since the treaty came into force in 1970. Okay, from 1970 till 2022, it is so more than 52 years. But in the 52 years, so the number of weapons has increased, and the nuclear hubs who are supposed to go for a disarmament drive and liquidate their nuclear weapons, they have not liquidated, rather they have added more to their nuclear stockpile. This is the biggest criticism of this particular treaty. Fine. Some argue that the nuclear weapon states have not fully complied with their disarmament obligations under Article 6 of NPT. Some countries such as India have criticized the NPT because it discriminated against states not possessing nuclear weapons on 1st January 1967, while Iran and numerous Arab states have criticized Israel for not signing the NPT. There has been disappointment with the limited progress on nuclear disarmament, where the 5 authorized nuclear weapon states still have 13,400 warheads as of 2021, which might have been increased by now. Okay, so this is the biggest limitation of the treaty. Okay, so as noted above, the International Court of Justice, in its advisory jurisdiction on the legality of the threat or use of nuclear weapons, stated that there exists an obligation to pursue in good faith and bring to a conclusion negotiations leading to nuclear disarmament in all its aspects under strict and effective international control. Some critics of the nuclear weapon state contended that they have failed to comply with Article 6 by failing to make disarmament the driving force in national planning and policy with respect to nuclear weapons, even while they ask other states to plan for their security without nuclear weapons. Although the nuclear hubs, they always advise other country to plan their security without nuclear weapons, but they themselves go on adding to their nuclear stockpiling. This is the biggest tragedy in case of the NPT, for which they have been criticized. because those who advise other country from not acquiring nuclear weapons and pursue conventional weapon development for their security purpose, they themselves go on adding to their nuclear stockpiling. That is the biggest issue, which is a major ground of criticism of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. And so country like India oppose this treaty on this particular ground. Fine, but still this is one of the most well accepted based on the concept of the slow progress of nuclear disarmament and the continued reliance on nuclear weapons in military and security concept, doctrines and policies. The Treaty on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was adopted in July 2017 and was subsequently opened for signature on September 17. Entering into force on January 2021, it prohibits each state party from development, testing, production, stockpiling, stationing, transfer, use and threat or use of nuclear weapons, as well as assistance to those activities. It reaffirms its preamble, the vital role of the full and effective implementation of the NPT. But NPT till date is the most successful treaty to check the spread of nuclear weapons and the nuclear weapon technology. So, signed by the global community, except the position by some country, it is well accepted, and a number of 193 countries of United Nations membership have signed this agreement. Fine. So today we have discussed two important treaties, and in subsequent classes, so we will discuss about such other international treaty important for your examination. Thank you for watching.